Hello, folks. Hopefully, you're all doing well. I've noticed over the past few days that when I've been doing these hobby nightmares, I tend to raise my voice because I'm so used to using a headset, and on my headset, I had to talk quite loudly to actually get my voice across in videos. It's really hard to train that out to stop doing that because my microphone's really good right now, but it's also really sensitive. So I'm trying to work on that. Trying to get it sorted for you. Hopefully this doesn't blow out your earpieces or anything. I'm trying to manage that. A few of you have commented in past videos saying, yeah, that it's almost like the sound goes way too loud for a bit. So I'll try and focus on getting that down for you as we run into this week's hobby nightmares. Awesome stuff. So we're going with Bogdan first. How's it going, man? And he says, "Hi, hello, North. Not sure if it fits into the usual category of content for the channel, but I believe it might be interesting to share how the hobby and your advice has impacted my life in a pretty major way." Oh no. Oh no. I hope this is a good email, not a bad email. My name is Bogdan. Okay. Oh, right, so that's how it's spelled. Right, cool. Yeah, Polish. Is it Polish? We'll see. My name is Bogdan, and I have previously sent in a story to be read out on the channel about 2 years ago. In it, I told you about how I have experienced pretty major changes in life, which included fleeing to Hungary from my home country of Ukraine due to warfare, abandoning the relationship with my abusive mother, leaving a toxic relationship, and eventually getting therapy and reigniting my passion for the hobby, with the help of my father. I believe that in the title of the video, you called me a stoic hobbyist. Dude, I remember this one. It's always great when people come back after years, man. I remember this one. This is cool. Alright. I love getting these updates. Seeing the story read out on the channel and receiving all the support from the people in your community really felt cathartic, and helped me realise that I am moving my life in the right direction. Since then, there have been more changes that have occurred throughout my life, and multiple pieces of advice that you have offered came in handy. Nice. I continued being invested in the hobby greatly. However, I ran into a problem when it came to meeting potential friends through it. In Hungary, I would get out for a game of Warhammer about once a month, and people who would be available for games around the same time would be typical hobby dads. I had problems finding friends my age due to the different levels of maturity between me and my peers. Dude, this happens so often when a young man is forced to become a man at a very early age. So I've got a lot of friends who grew up I say a lot, 2 or 3, who grew up in Eastern Europe, and I had one who's from Bosnia way back in the day. You still speak to him every now and again, but he really struggled finding friends because his life was so full of turmoil. When he was like 9, 10 years of age, he basically had to become a surrogate parent to his 2 sisters. And when a young lad is forced to become a man at like 13 to look after people, you really do struggle to identify with other people because their problems aren't your problems. Do you know what I mean? Like these, when you look at other kids when you're 13, you've been looking after your family, dude. You're on a different wavelength to them. You know, it's crazy. So you really do struggle. So I'm getting this from Bogdan's email as well. However, while hobby dads would enjoy my company during the games of Warhammer, they would honestly find other interactions with me a bit weird. The consistent feeling that they would describe it would be like, talking to you is like talking to an old guy in a young man's body. Yeah. While this was upsetting at first, I simply accepted it as the reality of the situation that I can't really change, as my concerns about the prospect of making more friends became less important. Instead, I focused on completing my education in the IB program, graduating high school, and sending my applications off to universities. I ended up getting accepted to a Christian university in Texas to pursue a bachelor's degree in psychology. This meant that my life would undergo a serious change again, as moving to Texas would leave me in a country on a different continent, without any family or established connections. Dude, I think, low-key, you've made the greatest decision of your life. Low-key, right? No, I've said this on stream before, okay? I get a lot of Americans who talk bad about their own country, and I always say to them, unless you've lived in the United Kingdom for 6 months or more, you don't get to talk bad about the United States. I've lived there. And where I was living wasn't this great shakes place. It was like an average place, right? And my God, the difference in quality of life over there was ridiculous, right? I've been to San Francisco, lived there for a bit, right? You know, all these cities you're told not to go to. Chicago, all these cities you're told not to go to. Oh, it's a hellscape, dude. It's amazing. It's amazing. That you do not know how lucky you are, Americans. The amount of Americans who talk bad about their own country on this channel. Unless you've lived somewhere else, Bogdan's going to go to Texas and his mind is going to be blown. Right? You have made absolutely... I've not even read the rest of this yet, so it might all blow up in his face, but in my opinion, you've made absolutely the greatest decision you could ever have made, because you're going from Poland, I think. No, Ukraine, right? You're going from Ukraine or Hungary, right, to Texas, okay? A mostly red state, but also, you know, like, there are certain parts of Texas that are booming. The weather's amazing over there, right? It's, dude, certain parts of America are absolutely phenomenal. I would say even the worst parts of America, the worst cities in America, still beat the best cities in the UK, hands down, right? You know, you could go, name me a really bad city that you know, Detroit, right? Every American whinges, or not whinges, but takes the piss out of Detroit all the time, right? I'm here to tell you guys, Detroit, like, absolutely curb stomps every UK city, including London, in terms of quality of life. I'm telling you, you don't know how good you've got it. I'm sorry, UK people will get a bit triggered by that, but it's true. I'm sorry, it is. I'm proud British. I'm proud to be English. Proud to be where I'm from. But it doesn't change the fact that living in America as a guy from Liverpool is kind of like living in a spaceship. You're like, oh my God, this is how it's supposed to work. This is how it should be. I'm serious. Come and live in the UK. Go and live in Birmingham for 6 months. As an American, you live in Birmingham or London for 6 months, you'll be flying back to that plane, crying after a couple of weeks. You're like, get me on that plane. I'm going home. Anyway. And again, I'm proud of being British. I don't think it's a terrible country to live in. This is it. I'm not being negative. I think UK's fine to live in. It's a nice country, right? But America, man. Yeah, you don't know how lucky you've got it. Anyway. Not only that though, Bogdan, you're getting a fresh start here, and this is what you need. Because nobody in America is going to know that you're an old man in a young man's body. No one's going to know that. You're getting an absolute fresh start. This is exactly what you need. I followed through with it, as in my mind, this would help me keep moving forwards with my life. My father once supported me through the process, as he helped me throughout my journey to America, and even stayed in Texas for a week with me to help me settle in. What a guy. What a Chad, man. Yeah, your dad's absolute Chad. I also didn't abandon the hobby throughout this great change, as I ended up dragging all of my miniatures and hobby supplies with me in a huge case, which made me a target of suspicion and additional checks from multiple confused airport staff on my way to Texas. That's hilarious. Where you got in this bag, sir? Black Templars. What? In August 2024, when the university started, I did not succeed in meeting a lot of people either, as they too were different in interests but also their overall attitude towards life. An example of this was my roommate, Will, who would mostly be preoccupied with joining a fraternity. My interactions with him would mostly consist of him disappearing in the middle of the night to participate in one of the many fraternity humiliation rituals, to then come back in the odd hours of the morning, either drunk or high. I gave up on trying to make friends at the university. Instead, I tried online dating. This is where your advice came in, North, as I distinctly remember you saying, date older women to me. Yeah, I probably did, knowing what you're like. In the long run, this simple phrase was one of the most influential pieces of advice you gave me, as it ultimately helped me meet my now wife, Casey. Dude! Awesome. At the time, when we met, I was 18, while she was 21. Ahaha. She can buy the booze. Such a weird law, that. Anyway. Unknowingly, I ended up as lucky as a guy in my position can be. Casey ended up being not only my type, but she also was quite a tomboy and had a surprisingly similar values to mine. She was very mature as she focused on her career as a flight attendant. Dude, you're married to a Texan flight attendant? Now, if I was in any other situation in life, apart from being very happy the way I am, I'd be like, has she got any friends? Is she blonde? Like, that's the whole thing, like, blonde Texas flight attendant. Jeez. Sheesh. Well done, man. Well done. One sec, let me take a sip of tea. I will toast you with my tea. There we go. Wow. While also wanting to seek only a serious relationship, which had the potential to result into marriage and building a family together. Her personality was also somewhat similar to mine, as she was very direct, while also managing to be very driven and stay very compassionate even in difficult times. She was very active physically, and was into nerdy stuff too, like video games. Similarly to me, Casey had to grow up early, as she worked multiple jobs at 14 and had her father kick her out at 18 years old. While her father was not abusive like my mother, he would seriously neglect Casey and her older sister throughout the years. Similarly to me, Casey ended up coming out as a good person of a horrible situation. We ended up moving in together in April 2025 and getting married in court last Monday. Congratulations. Congratulations to Bogdan. You took the advice and you found yourself a conservative Texan flight attending hottie. Living the dream, my friend. You're living the dream. While I continue, as we naturally grew into living more like a married couple. Excellent. While I continued focusing on my degree, Casey is focused on her career, and we both keep the relationship as the number one priority in our lives. I still find time to occasionally engage with Warhammer, however, it is more, it is in a more solitary way, as now I just build and paint minis, and haven't really gone out for a game in almost 2 years. While I don't have people in here who I could call friends, I managed to find a woman who I genuinely love, and share the most intimate connection with, simply by following your advice to date older women. Thank you, North, for everything you do for the community, and thank you for indirectly helping me meet my wife. Awesome. You've also attached a few pictures of your Black Templars, and I've chosen one of them to whack on the stream, so we'll whack that on in a sec. But well done to you, man. Absolutely well done. I think, you know, what more can you want? It's not always about, like, dude, that's a good-looking Black Templar. That's a good-looking Black Templar. Well done to you, man. That's brilliant. Yeah, it's not always about, like, getting loads of friends. You know, I'm sure that was disheartening for you when you first started moving to America. But I honestly thought you met loads of friends over there, because in America it can change quite a bit. You know, they often like foreign people coming in, especially if they're, you know, not from, like, absolutely countries that are going to cause problems. Hint, you know what I mean? But if you go over there to America and you're, like, from Eastern Europe or England or Scandinavia or something, and you want to work hard, you want to get your degree, you're normally quite liked. Do you know what I mean? And that's just how it goes over there, in my opinion. That's what I saw anyway when I was over there. So yeah, you made the right choice, man. You made the right call. So well done to you. Absolutely brilliant. Alright, let's move on, shall we, to our next hobby nightmare. It is from Noah. How's it going, man? He says, "Hi. My story is basically why Games Workshop lost me as a possible customer. Alright? I live in the USA, in a small local suburb town. I had played Space Marine 2 and wanted to read the lore it's based on, so I went to Games Workshop in the town next door. That was my mistake. The minute I walked in, I saw no one there. It was just me and the employee. I was surprised, because normally I find card shops and similar stores and find people there playing casually. It was a little after lunch on a Saturday, so I was kind of sad because I hoped I could maybe see somebody play and maybe get involved. I decided, you know what, to hell with it, and I just wanted to buy some lore books and go home, but that was my second mistake. Yeah, man, you can't walk into a Games Workshop just wanting to buy a book. They won't have it. You know, they will have it, as in they'll take your money, but like, they will try and get you to buy some models. But at the end of the day, dude, Noah, I hope this isn't a hobby nightmare where you're complaining about a guy doing his job. We've had that a few times, right? Somebody says, oh, he tried to sell me models. You're in Games Workshop, right? And my only problem with people trying to sell you models is if they try and upsell you after you've said you're not interested, right? I just want to buy this book. What about these Space Marines? No, I just want to buy this book. What about these Space Marines? No, I just want to buy it. You know, not taking no for an answer, that gets my hackles up. But a Games Workshop staffer wanting to sell you models isn't a hobby nightmare. Just have to say, right? I get a lot of emails like this that I have to send back going, listen, I can't read this out. I'm sorry that happened to you, but somebody trying to sell you models in a model shop isn't a nightmare or traumatic. So, you know, anyway. While I was looking, the employee was standing behind me and watching me look at each book section like he was looking at my soul. He asked me if I was looking for anything in particular, and I said no, just a book or two. I like the lore, and I just played Space Marine 2. I want to read some more lore on them. Instead of the topic of books, he asked me about the game and have I played the tabletop game before. And I said no, but I wanted to find friends first before I got into it. Do you know how to play, he said. And I said no, I wanted to meet new people and see how the game works before I do anything. Cheers. He then, long story short, did the whole introduction of the game despite my protest of not wanting to and just coming in for some books. Well, this is where you just have a firm no, my friend. This is where you just say, I don't want to do an intro game, I don't have time. Can you please tell me what book I should get? Basically, right now, dude, he should be selling you Dark Imperium. The book. Guy Haley, Dark Imperium. Right? It's a really good book. It's about Space Marines. Go ham, right? I got the free model, and he asked me if I wanted to play the game more, and I said maybe. I would have to think about it and see the full-on games whenever they were played in the store. He then grabs the box of the Ultimate Starter set off the shelf and said, well, this here has everything you need to play. I told him money is tight right now and I'm not really interested in playing anything, I just want to get my books. He kept saying that it's a cheap entry and will be a good investment. I said no, and he was shocked that I told him I don't have $200 to just drop on a dime. I came in for 2 books, and he reluctantly checked me out and told me when I'm able to afford the set to come back. Okay, well, I'm going to be honest with you, Noah, I'm not seeing much wrong with this interaction. He's being a bit pushy, right? I get that. He's being a bit pushy. But in terms of like what he's being like, I don't know, man. I'm not really seeing any trauma. You know, guy's doing his job. In fact, this is boilerplate what you're trained to do. Just imagine, Noah, this guy's had it drilled into him for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And his job probably rests on him sticking to this script. Right? I'm going to go out on a limb. I know there are certain Games Workshop managers who will stay in the background, right? And literally look at what you're doing, right? They'll hide on the shop floor so the customer can't see them, but they'll listen to what's going on. I've had it done to me, right? Manager sits down behind the till on the floor whilst I speak to people so he can listen to how you're interacting with customers. So, because he doesn't want the customer to see him, right? But yeah, that might have been happening here. If he's sticking to the script that closely, you never know. Every time I've been to the store, this has happened, and I literally come in for the books and get taught the game and a free Space Marine sometimes, and sometimes it's painted, and sometimes it's not. Dude, you keep going back. It's like Groundhog Day. This guy, you keep going back to the same store, and they keep giving you the same introduction game. This is hilarious. And yeah. This guy, Noah, you are so adverse to confrontation of any kind that you go back into the store and they keep roping you into introduction games over and over and over again, and you just got in there for a book. This is this is the 3rd time this has happened now, and it's frustrating. And last time I snapped asking him to back off. I came in for some more books. I'm not wanting to buy a $200 set. He ignored my request and kept giving me the sales pitch. I honestly had a bad experience. The guy seems to love the hobby, but was so pushy, I felt overwhelmed. Don't tell me you bought the box set. Do not tell me. I'm socially anxious, so talking to new people is hard. And I wanted to learn the game eventually when my job fully started, and I just started a new job, so I didn't have that much money. But this made me never want to go back and play ever. I buy law books online now, some aren't available there, and I don't want to go back and keep doing this. I'm kind of saying my nightmare, and advice how I should move forward with this would be helpful. Cheers. Dude, like, you've already done your own advice. Just don't go in. You know, vote with your wallet. Just say, no, I'm not doing that. Don't go in. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. You made the right decision, dude. That is the right decision. You made the right call. Like, the fact that you kept going back in, just repeat abuse every time. You made the right call, man. Yeah, and don't buy books in Games Workshop stores. One, their selection is terrible. Okay, they hardly have any books in. Right, don't even buy books from hobby stores because, again, their selection isn't very good. Look for reviews online about what you're interested in, and then buy them from Amazon. Right, next day delivery. They got all of them on there. That's what you do. Right. Anyway. Next Hobby Nightmare is from... Ooh, that's a lovely looking Angron model. Look at that. I'm gonna whack that on straight away. This one deserves to be seen. Look at this. Look at that, man. Damn. Bogdan, avert your eyes. There's a Black Templar being shot out by Angron into the lava. Anyway. Good morning, Mr. Exile. I would like to be kept completely anonymous for this one, okay? Because I need advice, but I don't want to accidentally cause my premonition to come true by trying to avoid it, alright? I hope this is okay. This is a political one, unfortunately, so maybe pre-read before you read it out on your channel, just to make sure it's a good fit. Yeah, I've skimmed it. It's okay. It's okay. Take breaks whenever you like. No rush at all. It's all focused around my love for Warhammer and most other forms of nerddom, but with the nature of my problem, I don't think I'll be able to separate the politics from it. That being said, if you don't want to read it on your channel, I fully understand. I don't want to cause you any unnecessary headaches, or headaches as you've spelt it, but I really do need advice, and you are the most objective person I could think of that doesn't share a last name with me, and some problems just need a new set of eyes from the outside, you know what I mean? Well, again, my friend, this is why I have to read this out, right? Because not only me, you've got the brain trust, you've got the comment section, you've got the Discord, right? Everybody's listening right now, so let's dive in. So, just a bit of important background. I am American, like sometimes stereotypically so. American flag, trucker cap, a weird mix of Midwestern and Southern accent, American flag tattoos, etc. And hell, I even got a tobacco pipe carved like an eagle head. I'm mostly about as right-leaning as you can get without being a nut job. I have my opinions, and they're going to stay that way, but I will never shy away from talking to anybody. I've never met a stranger. I've never met a stranger. Right, I'm going to phrase that as I've never been bad to strangers, right? Okay, and I try to be as polite as possible. Just how I was raised. I enjoy hearing the opinions of others and reach across the aisle where I can and try to help people see our similarities over our differences, because ultimately, right wing, left wing, it's all part of the same damn chicken. That's a good phrase. I like that phrase. Yeah. I think my political leanings, I'd be the right breast of the chicken. You know, that's where I'd be. I'm hungry now. Anyway, I've been listening to your channel for a long while now, till I took almost a 2-year hiatus from the real world that I'll explain in a second, and even sent in a story back in the day, and I really enjoy and see the value of almost all of your insights, even though I don't agree entirely with all of them, and so I think you might be the person who might be able to help. Okay, so a touch more background now, so you all know a little more about me. The first time I voted here in the United States was 2016, and for those who remember, it was not a pleasant time for anybody supporting the big T. That's Trump, folks, if anyone who's not following along. I was called every ist and ism and phobe you can imagine. I lost friends and family when they found out who I was thinking about voting for. Needless to say, as an 18-year-old boy at the time with absolutely no middle ground, I had two ways of dealing with it. Double down or fold. I doubled down. Good for you, man. No, good for you. And absolutely, don't let... If you've got an opinion, right, don't let your family sway your opinion. Like, you stick to your guns. No matter what they are, stick to them. I know telling a Texan to stick to his guns is, like preaching to the gallery, but, Okay. I fully admit that I was a bit cringy in this stage of my life. After being called the bad guy for something so trivial for months on end, I didn't really care anymore what people thought of me. I'm right, you're wrong, that's the way it is. That kind of nonsense. Well, dude, here's the thing, alright? Here's the thing. If you have a political... Like, say you wanted to vote for Trump, right? You wanted to do that, and everyone's calling you a misogynist or a homophobe or whatever, a racist, whatever, right? Everyone's calling you that for ages. It's only a matter of time before you go, do you know what? Absolutely fuck these people, right? Yeah, and you go down one of two paths. You either become what they say you are, just to get a rise out of them because you hate them so much, right? Because it was unfair what they did to you, okay? Or you start treating them like the boy who cried wolf, and you're like, even when an injustice actually happens, you go, nah. Do you know what I'm saying? So a lot of the left-leaning people that I know, they said so much like horrid stuff back with the pandemic and things, that even if something does happen now that's really, really bad, I'll look at it with like suspicion. I'll be like, yeah, you're campaigning for that thing, but it's you. Do you know what I mean? It's you, so, how do I know it's actually a thing? I don't know. Moving on. What I'm saying is, folks, if you treat somebody as an absolute villain just for voting for one person, you can't be surprised when they turn around and tell you to go fuck yourself. Just saying, right? All you're doing by insulting people is you're pushing them further. If you put it this way, if you see like a far left person and you take the royal piss out of them for being far left, all you're doing is pushing them to be more far left, right? You're pushing them in there. It's like compounded earwax, right? If you've got compounded earwax, you go to the doctor and you get it syringed. You don't stick a cotton bud down your fucking ear hole and start smashing it in there, right? That's what you're doing. Whenever you have a go at somebody with far-right leanings, who's a bit of a nut job with this, when you start actually calling them ists and phobes and stuff, they're just going to get more compounded. When you've got a guy like this who just voted for Trump, right? He's not an ist or a phobe. He's just a guy who sees more in Trump than the other person. That's fair enough. There's only two options, dudes. You know what I mean? So he's chosen one option rather than the other option. If you start calling him an ist and a phobe, you're going to send him down that path. He's going to get more and more and more extreme. Because the extreme people will be more than happy to stand there with open arms and say, yes, we will accept you. They don't accept you. We will accept you. What I'm saying is you catch more flies with honey than bile. Right? Just simple. A lot of people on the right and left don't seem to understand that. Anyway. From 2016 to 2020, things started turning down. I got involved with D&D and my problems started to get a bit better. I stopped being so belligerent just for the sake of it and started to calm right down. I met a girl at the D&D table, dated, made her my wife and had twins, one boy and one girl, in 2019. I was 21 or 22 at the time. Kinda young, I know, but I loved them with every fibre of my being. Like so many others, I got into Warhammer during COVID and immediately jumped headfirst into my World Eaters and I loved it, and they're still my favourite army. I'll attach a picture of Angron. He is painted close to the box art, so I don't think there's anything that'll give me away, lol. And things were looking good. Dude, you can paint. You can paint your ass off, I will say that. Unfortunately, with the world telling me I couldn't do things, couldn't go places, couldn't work, and the don't believe your lying eyes coming at me from the news, and the government going, trust me bro, we're the government, my in-your-face side started to pop back up again, and I'm ashamed to say that being a young father, I still didn't have my priorities straight. I was busy trying to save the world and change everybody's opinions when I should have been more worried about my world. I was younger and stupid, what can I say? For the record though, I always tried my hardest to keep my politics and gaming separate. It was my sanctuary and I wanted to keep it sacred. My real nightmare comes in 2021. In January of 2021 in DC, I'm sure a lot of people know about the Capitol riot. Yeah, or the insurrection as they call it when I was over there. Dude, I was teaching in America at this time. And this got me to like sort of cringe the left all of, in my school, there were teachers crying about the riots in DC. The 6th of January, right? So I got to America to start teaching on like the 2nd of January, right? And I went for a meeting on the 6th in school. And it was pretty cool because COVID was there, so we were able to stay home for like the first 2 months of me being in the US. I taught from home, which is kind of where my career came from. You know what I mean? Like I taught from home, and then eventually, I made a career out of it, right? But going in for meetings and stuff, dude, the actual teachers crying about the riot, and I'm sitting there going, dude, shut up. Dude, shut up. All right, just. Were you crying in 2020 when all that stuff was kicking off? Like worldwide riots, Chaz and all that? You remember that? Right? All that cringe? You remember that? Were you crying then? No? Well, shut up then. And shut up. Oh my god. I don't know, man. I think it's just my Britishness came out. I just find that cringe. Nah, man. Come on. People are gonna be people, right? Stupid people are stupid people. Okay? Like, a silent truth beats a loud lie. Right? If you just stayed aloof, said, listen, they shouldn't have done that, we don't condone it, moving on. Right? If you'd have done that, I don't know, man. Just being there, it was weird. It was so strange. And again, I know this is a lot of me being British and being cynical, right? But I'm just sitting there going, how has it affected you? Why are you crying? Why are you crying? How has it affected you? It won't affect anything. In fact, if anything, it'll make people more polarized. Nothing's going to change. So why are you whinging? Dry your eyes, mate. Dude, when I saw one guy doing this, he had one of these plaid jumpers on. I'm sitting there with a leather jacket on, looking at him going, dude, wherever your wife is, go to her, get her purse, open it, and pick your balls out, and, reclaim your life. Because crying over something like this as a grown man, no, not for me. People are going to think I'm such an arsehole for that, but, like, I don't know, man. I know, a lot of British people will be sitting there cringing, going, yep, that's cringy. Anyway, in January of 2021 in DC, I'm sure a lot of people know about the Capitol riot. Well, I was there. Oh, really? And no, it's not what the media made it out to be. No, I am not some sort of crazy domestic terrorist. And no, I don't hate people just because I disagree with them. I was just a kid with big opinions that wanted to see the president's last speech of that term. And this is what I'm saying. I'm sure it's just me. I'm sure just by me saying that, a lot of people already have an opinion on me and think I'm some sort of criminal. The truth is that I was there. Lots of people there did things I disagree with. I'm guilty of being there, and that's it. Well, you can't have it both ways, man. You just told me that it wasn't what people said it was, but then you told me that a lot of people did things that you didn't agree with, so which one is it? Alright, let's move on. I helped some people out that were in trouble. I stopped to help folks who were getting trampled and stuff like that. I was not violent. I mean, hell, other than this black mark, I don't even have a speeding ticket to my name. During the 1.5 years of my trial, you got to try... What? What? Dude, you've skipped the part where you were arrested. You've gone straight to your trial, but this is really interesting. Okay. During the 1.5 years of my trial after I got arrested later in 2021, 2022 was hell. Not only did I have to drive the 12 hours to DC every 2 months for 15-minute hearings, I was also kicked from all my D&D groups, disowned by half my family and friends, and no one outside the family wanted anything to do with me except for a few people. Okay, so what's happened here is that they've identified you as being there and they've arrested you? Right. With you. Right. So basically you just told me all you were doing was helping people. Right, cool. So you did hear about this, okay? When you're from family and friends who were in America, they were saying, yeah, people have been picked up by the police who weren't even there. Who just, you know what I mean? Who live in DC, might have been there, so they get picked up by the... It's just mental. So I'm not surprised this happened to you. I'm going to take you as read, man. I always like to believe people when they take the time to send things into Hobby Nightmares, so I'll respectfully be like, okay, you probably did nothing wrong, and this is like you've been lumped in with a bad bunch. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I would go to hobby stores, and if somebody recognised me from the news, that never stopped smearing my name, by the way, I was at best ignored, at worst yelled at and insulted, all before my trial was over and well before any verdict was reached. It was the lowest point in my life. I never quite worked up the nerve to even consider any kind of self-harm or anything, but it was very hard and I came very close a few times. My one saving grace is that my wife and immediate family stood for me 100% and they made it possible for me to get through this. They held me up so I could walk the fire. I avoided doing almost anything hobby related for the whole pre-trial phase. I was too depressed to even think about subjecting myself to a possible confrontation. I did, however, scratch that nerd itch by painting and listening to your videos almost religiously, so thank you. You really did help me out, even though you didn't know it. I'm grateful for the work you do. Cheers, man. Then, the sentence came down. They said that due to my role in the riot, I should get prison time, and when I pointed out, arguing that I didn't do anything that warranted that, helping anybody I could, the prosecution twisted it into a way that framed it like I was a criminal helping others to commit crime. I was absolutely speechless. Here was a governmental figure telling me I was supposed to just watch another person getting trampled or whatever, and I couldn't believe it. Regardless of situation, I didn't think I could just stand by and watch that. I still don't. The scope of everything that had happened didn't even occur to me until I had to sit through thousands of hours of footage that had nothing to do with me, but was still being used as evidence against me. Weird, right? Anyhow, long story short, they did it. Contrary to the evidence in my favour, and there was a lot, they were on a witch hunt and just wanted to watch me burn, along with other people. They sent me to prison. Wow. And I sat there for almost 2 years, North. 2 years, ripped from my wife, my kids, everything. Wow. Then, they just let me go. I got pardoned. By the president. Dude, are you Nick Cage in, like, Con Air or something? What's going on? Yeah, the president's called me. I'm pardoned. Just, any man would have done the same. Dude, you're pushing what I can believe. I want to believe this so much. Everybody in the chat saying the same thing. I want to believe that Trump got you out of prison. I really want to believe. He's like, send them in, get him out. Guy's based as fuck, get him out. Okay, they just let me go. I got pardoned by the president for wrongful incarceration. Dude, you put incarnation. I am rage incarnate. But the damage has been done. I'll never get that time back, and I feel like I'm socially walking on eggshells. Never mind that, dude. Being in prison, that's not a fun time. Like, never mind that. Now, walking on eggshells should be the least of your worries, dude. You're going to be traumatized from being in prison for the rest of your life. I hope you got compensation. I hope you got compensation. Let's read on. I will say that I do have my priorities straight now. This little kick in the britches has really shown me where I need to be. I'm 27 now, and just want to be there to serve my family the best life I can. I'm done with almost all politics. I still have my opinions naturally, but I don't give a flying hoot anymore about it unless it's affecting my family directly. Correct. Correct. You look after you and yours and what affects you and yours. Correct. Here is where I need my advice. Sorry for the long preamble, but I feel like the context is very important because it's kind of a unique situation. No shit, Sherlock. Jesus, man. This might be the most Hollywood hobby nightmare we've ever had. Not gonna lie. We all know that nerddom in general is very left-leaning, so naturally, most game stores are also very left-leaning, some more so than others. The ones in my area are very left, and I'm terrified that I will lose my ability to do my hobby almost entirely if anybody ever connects me to past riots and things. The thought of being outed for this and not being allowed to be in stores or getting kicked out of these places again scares me. Building and playing my Warhammer is the best mental palate cleanser I've ever had. Dude, why do you need to do that in the store then? Why do you need to do that in the store? Just don't go in. Fuck them. No. Am I missing something? I know I could order online or play on Tabletop Simulator, but there's nothing like going out and meeting new people. Like I said, I was pardoned. Legally, thanks to being pardoned, it never happened, and it's not on my record. I never should have been dragged through the mud like I was, but like some people don't see it that way, and they are allowed to believe that. Free speech is a beauty after all, but here I am. Dude, you got pardoned by Trump. That's like the devil in their minds. That's like the devil coming in and saying, this guy did nothing wrong, I'll like him, right? Do you know what I'm saying? And you probably weren't the only person who was pardoned, by the way. There are probably a lot of people who got pardoned. So I'm not saying that you and Trump are besties or something. But I'm telling you now, like, to them, you are A1. It doesn't matter if what you did happened or didn't. Doesn't matter, right? To them, you are the worst. That's just, you know. And that'll never change, man. That'll never change. I'll get into it in a minute. I've got some advice for you, but I'll read the rest of this first. I like to think I'm a good opponent, and I really only care that my opponent is having fun, which works because, like I said, I play World Eaters, so just taking models from the board makes Khorne happy. I'm the definition of a weekend warrior, and just want to throw dice around. I have had 0 complaints my way, and honestly no real nightmares either. I always buy something from the store, and I make sure I don't get in anybody's way. I still do not talk any kind of politics at the game board, even when it's brought up by others. But if I'm recognised, they might ask me not to come back, and it's the only store within a couple of hours, and the second closest store is the other location from the store I do go to. I might be overthinking it, I might not have enough faith in people anymore, or it might be some anxiety or whatever, but I just have this fear over my head and I'm not sure what to do with it. Should I just keep doing what I'm doing and say screw it, and keep going till somebody does make the connection, and hope the rep I built myself as a good opponent and customer are enough for them to hopefully look past it? Should I look for a store out of my local area? Is there any advice you can give? I don't think it could be good to bring it up to anybody in store to ask. I think it's better to just keep it to myself, but I hate feeling that I'm sneaking around constantly. Do you know what I mean? I know it's a very specific circumstance I'm in, and I'm not sure if you have any ideas, but I'm trying to be better and I want to be the best man I can be, on and off of the game board. Sorry again, I know it's politics and I hate bringing it up even now, but I just need to know if there's something else I can do, and I don't have anybody else to ask really. Again, I completely get not reading it out on the channel. Okay, I am reading it out because it's really cool, man. So, I can be, in spite of my overly... sorry, I'm going to read the rest of that. We are all different and make different mistakes. I'm trying to be the best nerd and dad I can be, in spite of my overly political young adulthood. No, I'm just here for the minis, and to snort blood for the blood god, paint, like any true World Eaters player. Sorry again for bringing politics into it. Dude, stop apologising, right? Stop apologising, okay? So, alright. So first of all, I think you need to keep going to your store. Keep going to your store. And that's my first bit of advice here. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep going to your store. It obviously looks like things are going well. Nobody's connected you to it, right? And to be honest with you, mate, you would be very, very, very surprised how quickly people forget. Okay? What happened in 2020, 2021 is ancient news. I'm serious. The more politically ravenous people out there, they couldn't give less of a shit, right? They've moved on to other things. You're not the flavour of the month anymore. Nobody out there, you're doing this to yourself. None of those people out there are all sharpening their hooks and going, oh, we'll get him one day. I'm going to be honest with you, my friend. I'm just going to call you Dave. Listen, Dave, I'm going to be honest with you. Nobody gives a fuck about you. Right? Now, that's in a good and bad way. Okay? I know in your own mind, everybody is at the centre of their own movie in their own mind, right? And you're thinking everybody out there in your local town hates your guts and wants you to go away and is like, oh, no. Dude, they would have passed comment on you back in the day and they probably don't even remember what your name is now, right? You're not going to get outed, I'm telling you, because they don't give a shit. None of these people remember. They would have been like, rah, 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 back in the day. But that's it. That's all they did. They rah-rahed back in the day. And now we're years down the line. Right? Okay? And to be honest with you, if it ever does come to light in your store and they kick you out, good. Good. Then go find people that you can play with. Dude, if you're living... I don't know where you're living. You said you're living in... You didn't say where you're living. Okay. But if you're living in somewhere like Texas, or anywhere like that, anywhere rural, there will be people of the same mindset as you. Now be very careful. Don't go down any rabbit holes, right? But look for games outside of the store. Look for gaming groups. Look for hobby groups. Things like that. Diversify. You're going down the right path here. You've got to diversify your opponents. Get out there. Go to your local hobby store, but get a gaming group together. Get some dads together to play some hobbies. Get some friends into the hobby if you can, right? Meet people online and meet up with them in real life. Play some games. Diversify your hobby experience. That's one big thing you can do. But in general, keep doing what you're doing, because I'm going to be honest with you, dude, nobody gives a fuck. I'm serious. Nobody gives a fuck. Maybe one person in 10 in your local town will be able to recall your name. I'm being serious. You know? Because people like this, they move on to the next thing. The next thing to get offended by. The next thing to get outraged by. You're yesterday's news. You're not even yesterday's news, man. You're yesterday's news. No one gives a shit. I'm serious. Absolutely. Keep going to your store. They're never going to out you. They're never going to... And by the way, this outing thing, stop. Stop, right? You were wrongfully committed into prison. You were wrongfully sent to prison, right? And then you got out. You've got nothing to feel guilty for. Unless you do, and you've lied to me, you've told fibs, right? Unless you do, then fair enough. But like, if from what you've told me, you've got nothing to feel guilty about. So let it go. The only person you're torturing like this is you. Because nobody else on this God's green earth, aside from your family, gives a flying rat's arse about what you've done or where you've been. No one gives a shit. You're not a celebrity, right? No one gives a shit, right? And I think once you've realised that, you'll be fine, okay? You'll be fine. Once you've realised that, you become a pillar of that community, you know? And if somebody says to you, this, that, the other, say, yeah, dude, I've made mistakes. I was way overly political when I was younger. But I shouldn't have gone to prison. I didn't deserve that. I didn't do anything at that riot. I tried to save people from being hurt. Right? But they threw me in jail anyway. So I'm not going to stand here and have you call me a criminal. That is fighting talk, sir. Let's step outside, right? Stand up for yourself. But apart from that, say, listen, everything else that you said, I agree with. I was a dickhead when I was younger. And I'm sorry for it. I shouldn't have been like that. I should have had my priorities straight. But I did not deserve to go to prison, and I did not deserve what I got, right? So I'm not a lunatic. I just have a slightly different political opinion to you. That's it. So if that makes me the devil, then fine, I'll go somewhere else. But, you know, that's all you say if it comes up. That's all you say. Don't get your back up. Admit that you did wrong. But defend yourself and say, look, I shouldn't have gone to prison. I didn't do anything wrong. I was there and I helped people who were getting trampled, right? But they sent me to prison anyway because I'm guilty by association, right? Then I got a pardon, quite rightly so, because I did nothing wrong. And it was thrown out. Right? But I fully admit that I was overly political when I was younger. I drove a lot of people away with that bullshit, and I'm never going to do that again, because it's not worth it. You know? I just want to be a good hobbyist and have a good time with my friends, and be a good guy for my family. If you think that's wrong, then I guess I need to go find somewhere else to play, but, you know, I don't think it is. Approach it, kill them with kindness, dude. Approach it with logic, approach it with respect, and you'll do fine. But I'm telling you now, you will never have to have that conversation, because Dave, no one gives a shit about you. Simple as that, right? Carry on doing what you're doing, carry on doing your models, carry on going to your store, carry on having fun. It's never going to come up. And if it does, by some miracle, that's all you say. That's all you say. Alright? Good. Wow, that was some day, huh? Hobby Nightmares. My God. It is Monday, folks, and we are getting through these. These are some Hollywood-style Hobby Nightmares. Hopefully you found that enjoyable. Dave, have a really good one, man. Everybody, have a good one, and I will speak to you tomorrow for some more 40k Advantage, where we're going to talk about Games Workshop and getting rid of their entire customer base, because they're chasing the normie coin. Ooh, yes. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye now.